Hey guys, it's Alexandra from EyeLoveKnots.com. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make my through the window scarf. This is an easy scarf pattern. This is a mosaic crochet technique, but it's comprised of single crochets, double crochets, and chains. That's it. I've named this series of patterns through the window because to me it looks like this is the window, the raised stitches, like a window pane. And we're looking through at whatever you think is out there. To me, this is like a watercolor painting, maybe a pond full of lily pads out there. You tell the story, whatever you see when you look at it. But I have fallen in love with this technique. I think it's perfect for variegated yarns. That's one of the things that sometimes I'm like, what do I do with this yarn? It's beautiful, but I don't know what to do with it because it's hard to showcase stuff on it sometimes. And when I say variegated yarn, I mean a yarn like this. That's just a mixture of colors. This one on the left is my finished adult small size scarf. I've used the colorway Reef. And this one on the right is a different project that I'm working, but follows a very similar pattern to the scarf. And I just wanted to show you a different example. This one uses the variegated color called Monet. This is all Red Heart Super Saver, this is white, and this is Buff. Really, you can use any of your favorite worsted weight yarns to make your scarf. If the finished size is not essential to you, you could even use a chunky weight number 5 yarn with the respective hook. Follow the same stitch pattern and you'll just get an oversized, really cozy scarf. With worsted weight yarn, you're also going to need an H8 5mm crochet hook. If you're using a heavier worsted weight yarn, you may want to go up to an I9 5.5mm crochet hook. I'm going to give you the instructions for a toddler, child, adult small, and adult large size. I will provide in the description below the link to where you can find this crochet pattern. Since I already worked up my entire scarf, I'm going to go ahead and show you how to do this with a clip from another project that I worked up. But I will provide you with a chart that shows how many chains you need to work, how many stitches you'll have, and how many rows that you'll want depending on the size that you're working. So the video is going to be starting with a chain 31, but you'll want to make sure that you reference the chart so you work the correct number of chains for your size. Gauge is not terribly essential for this project unless the finished size is essential to you. I'll go ahead and put the gauge in the description box below. To measure it, you'll measure over the 4th row of the repeat, which is just a single crochet across. If you're measuring smaller, then you'll want to go up a crochet hook size and rework your sample. And if you're measuring larger, then you'll want to go down a crochet hook size and rework your sample. But the easiest way for you to check your gauge is going to be to start working your scarf. After about 6 or 8 rows, take your gauge. The width that you have is going to be about ½ an inch smaller than your finished scarf. So if you want it to be larger than that, then you'll want to take it out and either go up a hook size or add 4 chains to your foundation chain. The height is really easy to adjust. You'll just want to make sure that you end after 2 rows of single crochet, and you can stop working repeats anytime. Once we get through the stitch pattern and I give you the chart for your rows and come back, I'm going to show you how to do 1 round of single crochet around your scarf. For my scarf, I did not switch hook sizes, but a lot of times when I work down the side, I will go down 1 hook size because sometimes my border tends to ruffle, and that's just from a change in tension. So if you notice your border is ruffling, then just go down a hook size from what you used for the rest of the scarf. So H8 hook for the scarf, G6 4.25 for the border will fix the ruffle. The other option is going to be to block your finished scarf. At the end of this project, I am going to show you how to weave in your ends, also using a clip from a different project. So that project has a lot of ends in the border because I did several rounds, so you'll just use the information to weave in the ends from your one round. If you wanted to add additional rounds to your border, you could just by chaining one and single crocheting in each stitch all the way around and increasing in your corners the same exact way as I show you in round 1. The other projects that I'm showing clips from, I will put their links in the description box if you're interested in checking out those projects. But let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with a slip knot. So I've pulled the tail end over my fingers here, wrap it around my index finger 2 times, hold the tension with my thumb and my middle finger, grab the loop on the left, pull it up over the other one but not off my finger, grab the loop on the left now, pull it up over the other one and off my finger, and the tension is loose right here with the tail end, but it should also be tucked in there with my thumb and my middle finger. Then I will take my crochet hook, put it on the loop that's on my finger, pull it off, hold the working yarn in my right hand, and the tail end in my left, I'm going to pull that to normal tension. I'm going to start with a chain 31. To chain, we yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. Yarn over, pull through the loop on our hook. That is 3 chains. I'm going to go ahead and continue working on my chains. I've finished my chains. Now I'm going to work a single crochet into the second chain from the hook and each chain all the way across. So we don't count the loop that's on our hook. And I have 1 chain, 2 chains, insert my hook right into the center of that chain, yarn over, pull through. There are 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. Insert my hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. Insert my hook into the center of the next chain, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull through both loops. And I'm going to go ahead and continue single crocheting down the chain. Alright, there's the last chain. I'm going to go ahead and just hold the fabric and pull on that tail end to close up that hole. And I have now 30 single crochets worked. For row 2, we're going to chain 1 and turn. We're going to simply single crochet into the very first stitch by inserting it into the stitch, picking up both loops from that top V shape and completing a single crochet, and then we'll continue single crocheting into each stitch all the way across. I've come to my last stitch, and here's where I'm going to switch colors. So I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull through. I have 2 loops on my hook, and I'm going to put this down for a moment. I'll grab my next color, which is going to be this darker blue, make a loop, have a tail end long enough I can weave in, and I'll grab my work here, put that loop on my hook, and pull it through both loops. That counts as the last yarn over and pull through of the stitch. And now we'll start working this next row with our blue color. So I'm just going to tighten down the gray a little bit, then I'll drop that and the tail end, pick up the new blue, chain 1, and turn. Our repeat is 4 rows. This row that we're about to start working here is the very first row from the repeat. So I am going to be changing colors to do a sort of striping here, but the repeat is going to be worked exactly the same no matter which colors I have. So this is the first row. We start with a single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. Then we chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet into the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and you'll continue that across, chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And there we are. Next row is going to be chain 1, turn. Same exact thing, single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches, chain 2, skip the chain space, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip the next chain space, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, and continue this all the way across. Here I've made it to my last stitch, and I'm going to switch colors again here. So I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch, yarn over, pull through. I have 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to pause here. I'm going to hold the tension of those 2 loops with my index finger here, and I'm holding the work with my thumb and my middle finger, and I'm dropping the blue. I'm going to reach down, pick up that gray. First thing, I can see it's come loose here, so I'm going to tighten it up so that looks like normal tension there. Then I have the blue yarn in my thumb and my middle finger because I want to hold tension on this stitch as well. And I'm going to naturally yarn over with the gray and pull it through these 2 loops. And I say naturally because you just want an even pull there, like as normal, natural as possible. Yarn over and pull it through. You don't want it to bunch up, you don't want it to be too loose, you just want it to lay naturally right there on the side of your work. Now you have the gray yarn ready to go, chain 1 and turn. And we'll leave this float here, we'll crochet over it later and you won't even notice. The next row of our repeat is going to start with single crocheting to each of those first 2 single crochets. Then we're going to double crochet into each of those skipped stitches from 2 rows below. Start by yarning over. Then we want to push the chains to the back and move the stitches to the front. So we don't want to work into these stitches here or around them, the chains. We want to work in front of them. So we've yarned over, we're going to insert our hook into that very first skipped stitch, yarn over, pull through. There are 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. Then we'll double crochet into that next stitch, yarn over, insert your hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. And as we did that, we created 2 layers. So we have the chains on the back that have not been worked into at all, they've just been pushed to the back. And then we have the 2 double crochets we just worked into those skip stitches, which are going to lay right on top of those chains. We're going to single crochet into each of the next 2 single crochets. And once you do that, those double crochet stitches are attached. They're secured. They're not going to flip on you or anything. It's going to be even. We're going to push those chains to the back, pull those skip stitches to the front, yarn over, insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, insert your hook into the next stitch, yarn over, pull through, 3 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. The chains in the back have not been worked into, they're just pushed to the back. Double crochets are pushed to the front, and now we're going to single crochet into each of the next 2 single crochets, and this will allow those double crochets to just lay on top of the chains. Continue working in this repeat all the way down by double crocheting into each of those skipped stitches from 2 rows down. And then single crochet into each of those next 2 single crochets. And there we are, the 3rd row of the repeat. Next row is going to be a chain 1, turn, single crochet into the first stitch, and each stitch all the way across. And here we've come to the very last stitch of the row. We want to switch colors because we work 2 rows per color. Insert our hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on our hook. We're going to pause here. I'm going to lay this down because I'm going to be switching to a different color that I don't already have here. I'm going to form a loop with a tail end long enough to weave in. Put that loop on my hook and pull it through. Then I'll tighten down that gray, drop the tail end, pick up the working yarn, chain 1 and turn. And now we begin the repeat all over again. So I'll recap that for you. We're going to start by working a single crochet into each of those first 2 stitches, then chain 2, skip each of the next 2 stitches, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, chain 2, skip the next 2 stitches, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. And these are really easy to line up. You just want to make sure that the stitches you're working here line up with the colored stitches from 2 rows below. Those boxes will line up. If it's uneven, then perhaps you've added or missed a stitch. Go ahead and continue and pattern across. That's the first row of our repeat. Chain 1 and turn. Second row, single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches. Chain 2, skip the next chain space, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Chain 2, skip the next chain space, single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches. Continue across. And here's my last stitch of the row, so I'm going to switch colors. I'm going to insert my hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on my hook. I'm going to hold the tension of the loops with my index finger from my right hand, hold the fabric there with my thumb and middle finger. Then I'm going to drop the blue. I'm going to switch to gray here, so I'm going to pick up the gray. I'm going to tighten it up in case it's loosened in that last stitch. And then I'm going to hold the current tail end with my thumb and middle finger from my left hand, just to hold the tension there. Then, as natural as possible, I'm going to yarn over with the new color and pull it through. I want it to lay evenly up the side. I don't want it to be too loose or too tight. Then I'm going to chain 1 with my new color and turn. And that float will just sit there, and as I mentioned, we'll put a border on and the floats won't even be an issue. The third row of the repeat is single crochet into each of the first 2 stitches, double crochet into each of those skip stitches from 3 rows down, making sure you push the chains to the back and you pull the stitches to the front. Single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, then double crochet into each of those skip stitches from 2 rows down. So I yarn over, insert my hook right into the first skip stitch, picking up the stitch, and then I pull my hook forward so it doesn't work into or around those chains. Yarn over, insert my hook into the next stitch, pull my hook forward, and then complete my double crochet. Single crochet into each of the next 2 stitches, double crochet into each of those next skip stitches from 2 rows down, single crochet into each of those next 2 stitches. Continue working across. That's the third row of our repeat, and then just 1 more row left. Chain 1, turn, single crochet into the first stitch and each stitch all the way across. Here I've reached the last stitch of the row, insert my hook into that stitch, yarn over, pull through, and now I want to switch colors. I'm going to yarn over here with the new color and pull it through the loops on my hook. And I also want it to not be too tight or it will bunch my fabric up, and I don't want it to be too loose. So you can use your fingers to manipulate the fabric if you need more slack there. And then chain 1 and turn. And then I'll start my repeat all over again with single crochet into each of those first 2 stitches. To count these rows, you do it in 2s. The colors group themselves together. So there's 2 gray ones in the beginning, 2 dark blue, 2 gray, 2 light blue, 2 gray. So you'll count it just like that, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'm going to go ahead and continue working off camera, but I'll put up a chart here showing how many rows you'll need depending on the size that you're working. I'm going to chain 1 and turn. Then I'm going to work a single crochet into this very first stitch here. And each stitch all the way across until I get to the very first corner, where I'm going to work an increase or multiple stitches into that same stitch so that my corners will lay flat. Here I've worked across, I have my last stitch there. I'm going to work 3 single crochets all into that very last stitch. That is going to increase here so that my corners will lay flat. And then I'll rotate so that I can work down the side. The total number of stitches that you'll have working down the side is going to be 1 less than the total number of rows that you have. And as you work into these stitches, you're going to work into the side edge, as close to the side edge as possible. There are 2 types of stitches you're going to see. You're going to see what looks like a V shape here, and then after you're just going to see a hole. Then we go back to that V shape and then a hole. And that's because we've turned at the end of each row. So for this next stitch here, I'm going to insert my hook right into the center of that V stitch. And when I do that, I'm going to pick up 2 loops on my hook as if I was picking up any other stitch. And then I'm going to complete my single crochet. For the next one, I'm just going to insert my hook right into the hole. I also have 2 loops on my hook here. It's a little bit harder to see because they're tighter. Then I'm going to complete my single crochet. The next stitch is that V, insert right into the center of it, picking up just the 2 loops on the edge, and complete my single crochet. The next one is a hole, insert my hook right in there and complete my single crochet. And I'm going to continue working all the way down until I get to the very last stitch. There's my last stitch. The next one is going to be the first stitch from the beginning chain, and it'll open up because that tail end is not secured. So I'm going to work 3 single crochets into that stitch. This will be my next increase. Then I'm going to rotate my work. I'm going to single crochet into the next stitch there, and then I'm going to pull on that beginning tail end to close up that hole. I like to work over my tail end for about 3 or 4 stitches, then I drop it, and I count that as the first pass of weaving. So I'm going to hold that tail end up against my work, so that as I work in the opposite side of the foundation chain here, I'm going to work over that tail end as well. And here you're just going to work 1 single crochet into each of those stitches along the opposite side of the foundation chain until you get to the end. So for this next one, I'll insert my hook right into that stitch, and then I'll have the tail end over it. And when I work my single crochet, it's going to capture that. And I'm only going to do it again for like 3 or 4 stitches, and then I'm going to drop it. And then I'll come back with my tapestry needle and I'll weave the rest in later. And now I'm going to continue with just 1 stitch all the way across. And here I've come to the very last stitch of the row. I'm going to work 3 single crochets into that stitch, rotate, and now I just have one more side to work up, and it's the one that has all our floats on it. We're going to do it the same exact way that we did the other side, and you're going to have the same number of stitches. You're also going to see the same types of stitches here because it's opposite to the other side. You just want to remember to work as close to the side edge as possible. I'm going to go ahead and work the next stitch since there's no float there. Here, where the float begins, I'm going to insert my hook into the stitch as normal. I just want to make sure that the floats are on the inside over my crochet hook so that when I work my single crochet, it's going to encapture them. Oh, these are the tail ends. I'm going to weave those in, so I'm not going to crochet over that one. But I'm going to continue working here along the side, crocheting over the float. Here's another great example. This long dark blue float. Insert my hook into the stitch as normal. The blue float is over my crochet hook, and I'm just going to single crochet. Insert my hook into the next stitch as normal. Floats over my hook, single crochet as normal. So even though they're more twisted and over your fabric, as soon as you start crocheting over them, then they start to straighten out. And here I'm working over 2 floats, no problem. And you can see that now that dark blue float that was here is covered up by my border. And the tighter stitch that we're working here by going down a hook size is also going to hide it a little bit better. I'm going to go ahead and continue working all the way up the side here. Alright, I have reached the end of the side. You saw me pushing my tail ends to the back. I'm going to weave those in a few moments. I have to complete my first corner here. I'm going to work a single crochet into the very first stitch where I worked my first single crochet. And normally our corners for this have 3 single crochets. In place of that 3rd single crochet, I'm going to work a slip stitch join. So I'm going to insert my hook under both loops of that very first stitch, then yarn over, pull through that stitch and through the loop on my hook, and that's going to complete the round. Then I can take my scissors, fasten my yarn off, pull up on this loop to break it, then insert my hook from the wrong side to the right side into the stitch I just slip stitched to, yarn over and pull that tail end to the back. That way the tail end is on the back side with all the rest of them. There are going to be a few types in the middle of our work. If you have run out of yarn and you had to attach a new ball, you're going to have 2 strands there. The first thing I'm going to do is tie it into a knot, sort of, but just one time. So loop it around and pull it through. And this is going to mimic the look of the stitches. See how it gives that V shape there, the same as the V shape next to it. It also adds a little bit extra security, one time only, so that it doesn't add bulkiness, and you don't want to pull too tight. You want it to look the same as the other stitches there. Then I'll thread my tapestry needle. I always do 3 passes for my ends. That's my magic number. If you feel comfortable after 2, you can stop there. If you don't feel secure enough and you need a 4th, go ahead and work it. It's whatever you feel the most secure with your ends. The other thing I do is I do not pick the whole entire stitch up on my needle. Here we are with the whole stitch. I insert my needle in the center of the stitch, breaking it in half. Then when I exit, I also break that in half, and that's going to help capture my yarn better. So here I'm just going to insert into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, run under several stitches. The best way for this also is to work vertically if you can, so it doesn't prohibit any stretch widthwise. And then use your fingers to manipulate the fabric if you need to, so that all the fabric lays naturally. That's pass number 1. Insert into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half. Run back through several of the stitches I just worked, and break my last stitch in half as well. Pull on it, use my fingers to manipulate the fabric if needed. One more pass for me, inserting into a nearby stitch, breaking it in half, running up through several of the same stitches, and break my last stitch in half as well. Tug on it, manipulate the fabric by pulling with my fingers, and then I can fasten it off. I'm going to do the same thing with this end here. I have ends at the sides where I have switched colors. So here I've fastened off one color to switch to the next color. And I'm going to weave those into the bulkiness of their colorway. Same way, 3 passes. So I'm going to just insert into a nearby stitch, and in this case it's going to be the beige brown color. As long as you're not working completely through the fabric, you're not going to see it from the right side. Right now I'm on the wrong side, which is the back side. And then I'm going to run it through several of the stitches here that are the same exact color. And if you're worried about seeing it from the right side, then you can flip it around while your needle's through the stitches and see. If you can see your needle, then you're going to see your stitches. So I can see it a little bit here in the middle of the gold, but since it's the same color, that's fine for me. Insert into a nearby stitch, work back through several of those stitches there. Pull, manipulate my fabric, and 3 passes. And now I feel good about that, so I'm going to go ahead and fasten off. I'll do the same thing with this yellow here and all my other color changes that I have on the sides. I'm going to run each of these here through the bulkiness of the corner as much as I can, because it's the best way to hide the stitches. But you might also run them vertically up through several of those stitches or across a couple of the stitches. You just want to make sure that when you pull through, you do manipulate that fabric so it's not bunched up and it lays naturally. It's worked exactly the same as the other 2 that I showed you. Guys, thanks so much for watching my video. You'll find the free crochet pattern for this linked in the description box below. Please smash that like button and hit subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one.